From going into a fight to take the opponent's heart, to attacking Obama and his here are some of the worst trash-talking moments in UFC that made fans cringe. I'll start with Rafael Fiziev. Trash-talking is an integral part of the sport, there's no doubt about that. It's all about the mental warfare one has to initiate to assert dominance in and out of the cage. But God, when they fail at it, it's so embarrassing. What's worse is when the trash talk falls flat and all one can do is cringe internally. Fiziev brought in a winning streak in the lightweight division, 6 consecutive wins. For him, it was a big opportunity to go against Gaethje, who's a former interim UFC champion, so he was planning to show more skills inside the octagon. He told the media that he wants his opponent in the best shape in front of him, and for a hard and bloody fight to take place. As ambitious as he seemed, his trash talk just wasn't it. He stated that he'll go in and do his job, touch Gaethje with the first punch, the second doesn't matter, and ultimately, he wanted to go in to take his heart. Now that, it just gave everyone the ick. I don't know what he was trying to get at, but it didn't do what he wanted it to do. Anywho, that's nothing compared to the dude who talked about Jesus and gay people. This one didn't even make sense if I'm being honest. It's both funny and embarrassing when fighters trash talk about something completely random. Yoel Romero crushed former lightweight champion Lyoto Machida, that too in his first UFC main event. That sort of talent is usually propelled to superstardom. The win was his 5th in a row too, and it signaled that he's a big threat to the other contenders for the middleweight title.
There's that knee tap there from Romero. Huge elbow. That's it. Yoel Romero.
But most of that was overshadowed by his post-fight interview, which not only confused fans, but also offended them. The Soldier of God went on a strange rant in his broken English. He didn't speak of his victory, instead focused on telling fans in Miami to wake up, asking, "What happened to you, USA?" Then he made a reference to Jesus Christ and shouted, "Not for gay Jesus, people." Very awkward and random sentences were thrown out towards the crowd. Many took this as a reference to same-sex marriage, which was legalized a bit before UFC Fight Night 70. It's not clear whether this was Romero's intent or not. He didn't bother clearing up the issue. I think the rant was about not forgetting Jesus. But whatever it was, the rant had nothing to do with MMA or his bout, making it cringe and awkward. Naturally, MMA and politics don't mix, but another fighter didn't have the same understanding. There are many examples in the past of fighters pushing for their agendas. That brings one memorable and cringy name to mind, Jacob Volkman. He unleashed a huge rant after his 2011 win over Efrain Escudero. It has to be one of the most cringeworthy moments, too. Volkman, or Christmas, has become somewhat known for calling out then U.S. President Barack Obama. It was a moment that was seen on The Tonight Show, too. But after his fight in 2011, he decided to go one step further. He cracked a crude and weird joke about the former president needing a glassectomy. Before you Google it, it isn't an actual thing. Christmas explained it. He wants Obama to have a piece of glass put into his stomach so that when he has his head up his butt, the president will be able to see where he's going. Fans didn't get the joke at all, so he was met with confused silence from the crowd and Joe Rogan trying his best not to cringe too hard. It didn't work out too well for the fighter either. He was put on administrative leave from his other job as a high school wrestling coach. In hindsight, Ben Rothwell put all these fighters to shame with his new and strange identity after a bout. In his early UFC days, Rothwell wasn't much of a good fighter. He was, in theory, a big, heavy hitter who either knocked out his opponents or put on a sloppy fight. By 2014, it looked like he wasn't going anywhere in this career. He returned from a drug suspension to face Alistair Overeem, who was a heavily favored fighter at the time, and Rothwell managed to knock him out. This helped him save a spot on the roster. A year later, he submitted Matt Mitrione.
At 1 minute, 54 seconds of the very first round. Because of a tap out due to a go-go choke, Ben Rothwell!
Instead of taking it with grace, he decided to do the most childish and cringeworthy interview ever. Now that I think about it, it should have been obvious from the start that something weird is about to happen. Big Ben seemed to have gone off the rails already. He entered the arena to the sounds of a classical piece, from the soundtrack to Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, most normal fighters make an entrance to rock or hype music, and that was the first red flag. Nobody could have predicted what happened after. He channeled his inner vampire on the mic. He then claimed that only politics could hold him down.
I know right now there is not a man in this planet that can stop me inside this octagon, and only politics can slow me. I don't have much left to say other than you have seen nothing yet.
And he did something unforgivable. He unleashed a horror-like movie-inspired fake evil laugh that left everyone baffled.
Can I ask you about the fight, or you want to go out of here?
And strangely, he continued discussing the fight like nothing happened. To this day, the reason behind this is a mystery. But hey, if you have a theory, please let me know. Another cringe moment met with silence is that of Paul Buentello. Now, catchphrases are common for some fighters, like that of Steve Austin and The Rock. They're responsible for some of the more popular ones. But you know I'm not here for the sane moments in MMA. I'm here to tell you that some fighters never quite get the gist of things, and they try super hard to make something happen. The former heavyweight title contender Buentello tried to get himself a catchphrase back in 2006, but the moment blew up in his face silently, creating a moment so cringe that I don't think that fans have looked the same since. The headhunter used the line, "Don't fear me, fear the consequences," maybe only once or twice, and he thought that was enough for it to catch on. After he defeated Gilbert Aldana, he wondered if there were some fans in the crowd, so he chanted the first half of the line, asking the crowd to finish it, only no one did. He embarrassed both himself and Rogan, who was doing the interview. Talk about awkward. He tried brushing it off and never used that phrase again. But hey, at least now he's remembered by it, just not in the way that he wanted. None of these fighters even come close to Henry Cejudo. They aren't far off, but Cejudo is called the king of cringe for a reason, or he calls himself that. In fact, his Triple C nickname, referring to his Olympic, flyweight, and bantamweight championships, has been redubbed. He's now Triple Cringe, and it's pretty accurate. Sometimes it's on Twitter, where he's initiating vomit-inducing flirting with Nikki Bella.
What's your best words of advice for Henry Cejudo?
I feel like Henry, and he would agree with me, needs no advice because he's Triple C. That's right. And I say no advice. And I say make your kid proud. He's a daddy now. I was like, right? Yeah.
Baby America.
Or pointing out that he's made of steel and sex appeal to Jose Aldo. It's like a never-ending cringe nightmare. Just think about his video where he laid all 3 of his championship belts on a bed, and then he put diapers on them just to pretend that they were his bested opponents. Even his weird act of pulling out toy snakes in 2 of his face-offs before smashing them on the ground and throwing it at the crowd. None of it makes sense, and all of it makes us cringe. He's a joy to witness in the octagon and tough to watch anywhere else. That concludes the cringiest, trash-talking moments in UFC history.